If you guys would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would join me in a moment of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together tonight to discuss the business of the township. I pray that you would be with us as we go about making decisions and hearing the opinions of the township, and I just pray that you would help us and guide us through our decisions and let us be good stewards of the township. I pray that you would return us home safely, and we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, we are 5 of us here. Jess will be here shortly. She's running a few minutes late. Has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda? Questions, comments, concerns about the agenda?
We need to amend the agenda for the reviewing of chapters 8, 11, and 12 for tonight.
Sticking that in under
new business, so G2. Yeah. Still be under what?
The pending business, or
so new business, zoning ordinance discussion would still be the chapters that those would be the next chapter, so it's still under zoning ordinance.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we don't need to amend the agenda. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns other than that? I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. We have support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the approval of the minutes.
The only thing that I would call out with there is I think in the minutes is it referred to the chair, but didn't call out that
I was not here.
The chair. It does call that you were out, but not who was sitting in as the chair. So I think if we call that out or add that, that would be the only thing that I had noticed. I don't know if anybody else saw anything. Just trying to get my name in print, Jeff. That's what it boils down to.
So, where's it listed in here?
Approval of agenda is the first one underneath there. It just says
the chair.
So
Yeah.
it just needs
Chair,
to call that out once or something.
Parentheses Masterson.
Yeah.
Other than that, I will make a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment of the chair being Masterson for that meeting.
Support.
All right, we have a motion. We have support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Public comment. Anybody here want to stand up and speak on something that is not already on the agenda? No? All right. We will move on to the new business, the discussion of the zoning ordinance, precinct 3 overlay. I'd like to start by just stating that we're not voting on anything tonight. This is basically something that's being brought to our attention that the state may come to us and ask us to put a plan in place. That's how I view it. Ed, is that correct? So we're just being a little proactive in saying, hey, if we're going to be asked to do this, where do we want to do it? So we're just starting with this area of the township and looking at it. I don't know. You had a map up there a minute ago. Go ahead.
Sorry, just wanted to get a little more clarification on that part, Ed. Like what that entails. I mean, I understand having that in the master plan with that, but does that require or mandate a certain amount of growth that the state is expecting?
I don't think it goes into that depth.
Okay,
It just wants you to take into stock your housing, what you view your growth as, your current housing stock, what you'll need, items like that. And there is something that it talks about address affordable housing, and so that's subjective to every township. What's affordable is. So
is there? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I was just going to say, building off what you said, Ben, is there a way we can define what an address means? Like, so is addressing it like coming up with, what's been presented here, or are there like other?
You're gonna have to talk about it in the master plan. This is coming because I get a lot of calls about people want ADUs, they want to split 1 acre off for their parents to come live with them, items like that. And there is a lack of affordable housing in the township that we know. $700,000 is usually the.
That's where I had a couple of questions. I just, based on the memo that was provided, I didn't know what affordable housing was defined at for Cannon Township. Because just the way that the act said is like assess the existing and forecasting housing demands. So I wasn't really familiar with what was the existing housing demand, what was our forecasted housing demands, and even what affordable housing was defined as. It looks like it's usually like a percentage of the average income going towards housing. So like I just think more background information would be helpful before jumping into like possible solutions.
And that's
I just had a question, not being here when the process that happened whenever the master plan was approved, and in terms of potentially an amended master plan in 2028, what is the process that the township usually follows? I mean, are we consulting a city planner, or because it seems to me this issue of potentially addressing forecasting, understanding housing needs is one that we might be assisted by.
typically you do hire an outside consultant to come in. I know Paul LeBlanc did it last time, so I'll talk to the board, see what, or even the plan, you guys, what you decide, go about getting a consultant to come in and help do it. Typically that's the process, because takes a lot of time commitment to it is pretty.
Usually we do a survey,
Yeah.
and you kind of take a poll of all the residents or businesses, and they kind of tell you like, hey, what are the things that you like about the township, what do they don't, but what do you think about the housing situation? Do you find that we need more, need less, or it's too expensive, property taxes, all this stuff, and they compile it all, they give it to us, seems like a year later, and then it kind of helps us guide future land use.
And it could turn out that at the end of next year, we'll do a review of the current master plan, and that could be constitute enough that the planning commission still determines that the 2023 master plan is fine. We add a small section addressing the new state requirements. So you don't have to do a full, complete rewrite of it. You can review it and determine we still like the way
so
this
like
the
the plan that we have in place and it fits. So
Do we? I mean, as part of that, do you know? And I understand. Feel like we're grilling you on this topic, and it's still very new and coming out from the state. But with that, do we then, as the township, determine what our target growth rate is with that? Because I mean, we could say, yeah, everybody wants to live in Cannon Township, and so we should.
I'd have to look through it more to see what actually.
Okay, or can we say, yeah, we want to see a 2% growth rate, or we already based on the developments that are still being built out or in process that we want to see what
Does
that
suffice?
does. Yeah. Okay.
And then in addition to that, I just had written down the possibility of including as part of a, analysis of like where we are now and what some of the forecasts are. Traffic is always something that's brought up every time we talk about some sort of new development. So it seems like some sort of analysis on how that would impact traffic would be really helpful too.
Some sort of capacity assessment, roads, access, that.
And that's what you can even take into consideration. So if, let's say, something like this is addressed, the overlay, you take into consideration the utilities. You can even limit it to smaller size lots. So you can limit it, just going off a little bit, limit it to even if it's a 6-acre parcel, that's the max that can be split down further. That's a way, but traffic would be a consideration. You can adjust boundary lines a bit depending on traffic if you know there's congestion in the area.
Can I ask why you chose to put overlay district as something to discuss, as like the first thing to discuss, as
to start the discussion?
Just to start a discussion.
Because this isn't even just talking about the master plan. This is talking about, we get quite a few calls about people want to split their property further because their parents want to live with them, or a lot of calls about ADUs. But does township want an ADU on every single property? Because effectively, you allow an ADU on every property. That's
definition.
accessory dwelling unit. So now you have two homes on every property. So this could be a way around that and say, we'll potentially let you split the down to 1 acre.
But it's just kicking around the idea. Like, obviously, there's going to be growth. Do we have an area that we want to focus that growth? It's really just, this is a starting point. It's nothing is set in stone. Nothing. We're not saying this is where we do. We're just saying, like, okay, we have a spot. We're just taking the temperature. What do you guys think about this area? What are the pros and cons of if we were going to do something? Does this area fit? What are the pros and cons of this area? Is it something that, like Ed said, there's hundreds of ways that we can look at this, but we're going to have to look at something moving forward. Obviously, there's going to be growth in the township. Do we want to steer it to a certain area? There's always going to be people coming in wanting to develop certain areas. Do we want to push it towards an area where there are utilities, or do we want to look at other areas of the township and try to spread it out? So I think this is just a starting point, and one area that we're starting it on the map. We can look at a different area too. It's just we just happen to be, hey, what are you guys' thoughts on this?
You don't want to do anything, and the reason why I drew this area because it's bordered by all the major roads in the township. There's utilities for most of them. It's already a higher denser area than most of the township.
Right. So this is, there's a million questions, but essentially we're going to be asked to, how are we going to address growth by the state? They're going to want to see us have a plan in place with the master plan. I don't think this is a bad idea to look at how we're going to address it. I'm not saying that we would need to increase density. It's just, hey, this is an option. What are your guys' initial thoughts when you see something like this?
And you could determine that the township is addressing growth fine by allowing what developments we allow.
Right.
What are the ramifications from the state potentially if we come back and say, no, we think what we have is fine?
It's your master plan.
There's no like repercussions for
it's
that,
your
or
master
they would
plan.
say we don't think you're addressing it enough. At this point, there's no legislature or anything.
This is just in the Planning and Enabling Act was updated for townships and municipalities to address housing
as we see fit type thing.
It's what you determine. So there's no.
So that's right. We can say, no, we think we're doing a great job. We don't need to look at anything.
And you have a section in the new master plan update in 2028 addressing housing and saying that can we feel that we're adequate.
The walking up to that point, though, the process of inventorying and forecasting, how are we going to go about doing that?
Get with the assessor. I'll just give the assessor and see what
they can pull.
The new lots that were created,
lots in the area.
New lots created, new houses that were built. But that'll come closer to 2028.
I guess to me it just feels like discussing an overlay district either here or anywhere else feels like putting the cart before the horse if we don't know some of those details that we discussed.
So I still want to say this wasn't part of it is the master plan, but this is just addressing some calls and people coming to the township inquiries and residents in the township, because there are residents here that do have wanted to split their property further down. So this isn't being drawn, and I think we need to separate that this is not just because of the master plan. This is because a lot of people want ADUs. A lot of people might have 2 acres and they want their parents to come live with them, but they can't build an ADU, or they want to split down to 1 acre. So.
Okay, and if that's the case, sorry if anybody else has questions, do we have to do an overlay district to address ADUs in that way, or could we make an amendment?
I'm just using ADUs as an example that people are looking for other housing options in the township and they don't necessarily want 2 acres.
Okay.
But no, we wouldn't necessarily have to do an overlay district. No. He's just trying to limit it to a certain area.
You can still,
we can look at it as a zoning ordinance township wide if we wanted to. But he's just saying, like, hey, if we were going to consider something, do you guys like the idea of doing it only in this area?
And you can still amend the ADU in chapter 3 where it talks about ADUs. You can still amend that.
Okay. I'm also just asking for the public too, because that's where it felt like a lot of the letters that we got were focused on what was driving this. So appreciate the extra color for myself and others.
Anybody have any thoughts or questions on other than what we've discussed? It's not a public comment area. Are you guys okay if we, yeah, go for it.
Okay. My name is Brian Velas. I live at 8145 Oakview Ridge. I'm in Precinct 3. And I appreciate that you're just in the beginning stages of this and being proactive. That's fantastic. Of course, like anyone else, I'm like, okay, how does it affect me and not in my backyard kind of situation, right? The first thing I think of is when my neighbors sell or when I sell, what am I going to do? I'm going to split that property so I can make more money when I sell.
Sure.
Well, I really don't like the idea of more houses where there aren't any now, where I have a nice natural area. And I'm sure my neighbors wouldn't appreciate it if I did the same. So keeping it at the 2 acre minimum in my mind is where it should be. So, and I understand your situation where you have to, thinking about what you're going to, tell the state when they ask you what your plan is or something like that. But that's just, I'm sure maybe it's probably crossed your mind, but that's how my mind was thinking. And the first thing I thought of is, you're gonna have additional housing, intended or not, when neighbors sell, when I sell, things like that. So, and secondly, if we do increase the density of the area, the tax base goes up. Do my taxes go down? So I thought. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Edward Ludwig. I wrote a letter that you might have in your packet, and the purpose of the letter was, I did one thing I did in the letter, which I won't repeat here, is I went through all of the construction projects that are in Precinct 1 that have been done recently. And there's those 2 blue boxes on the top of the map there. And the one in the middle is the northwest section of Orchard View. And that's going to have a whole bunch of townhouses and apartments and stuff in it that nobody's counting or considering. That could be your increase that you showed to the state. Just look, we're putting in another 50 right here and so forth. I live in a subdivision, Fox Meadow, that has pretty much 2 to 10 acre lots. And we're talking about ADUs, that's kind of a desirable concept. A overlay to 1 acres is a totally different concept. That basically hangs a shiny red object in front of everybody who wants to split their lot and build houses. My neighbor across the road from me has a 10 acre lot. If he wanted to build an ADU for his mother or his kids or something like that, that wouldn't bother me a bit. But if he wants to split that into 9 homes and build one every year for 9 years, it's going to be, ruining the peace and quiet of my entire neighborhood. So this overlay system is to me just a wrong concept. And the thought that I had that I mentioned in my letter was, say you wanted to create 50 affordable housing units of $350,000. I would go somewhere in the state away from the Belding and Wolverine intersection and 10 Mile Wolverine intersection. I go into another part of the township, find 2 20-acre farmland that's not being used, probably is already cleared, and I would put maybe 25 duplexes or townhomes on each of those, and you've got 50 homes without destroying the 2 acre minimums you have in all of Precinct 1. And last thought was, why is this just Precinct 1? It's already the densest place in the township, and it's the one with by far the worst traffic, with everybody coming down Belding. That was just something pretty basic to think about.
Thank you. There's no rhyme or reason yet why why this is highlighted or anything. If the township were to do something like this, I can understand why they would look at this. Utilities are there, sewer, water, being up near the Rockford where the city water is, and obviously we've got sewer down Belding Road. So I can understand if you're going to increase density, you don't want to do septic systems, you want to hook them up to sewer. So I can understand if we're looking at it from that point of view, but there's no rhyme or reason yet. We're just exploring the idea of, like we said, hey, if we needed to find a way to do housing in, like what you recommended is not a bad idea either. We can look at that. There's no rhyme or reason yet, though.
You need to start the discussion.
Right. And that's all we're doing is just starting. This is just a starting point. taking people's temperature to see what they think, see what questions they have. So I appreciate the comment. You guys have any other thoughts?
I'd be really interested to understand where maybe some commercial development might be forecasted, and taking a look at we've got the existing mixed use PUD ordinance that gives us a lot of flexibility, opportunities to create that kind of housing that would be adjacent to a commercial or in a commercial area, but that may not fit the demographic of who wants to live in the township. So I know a lot of younger folk. I've got a couple 20-somethings. They think like cool little condos are interesting, but that's not really the vibe here. But that doesn't mean you couldn't have a little tiny pocket somewhere where somebody develops something cool and there's some housing adjacent to it. So
Problem that starting out over
You're back in that area, and since I've been here, nobody's come approach the township about adding more commercial.
We had, the village PUD,
and they changed that.
they changed it to residential from commercial because nobody was
Yeah.
interested in the commercial. Not to say that it wouldn't happen, and you're right, we do have the Orchard View condos and stuff like that for the higher density in the later phases. So there is an option for stuff like that. I don't know how cool it would be or how they'll do with, there's no mixed use plan for it. It's just condos and townhomes, I think. But
Wasn't there a discussion that we had a little bit back years ago with
Boston
with
Lake area,
Boswick Lake area when Paul LeBlanc was still here about doing
corridor down there.
a little corridor or something there that
Yep.
would be considered? That's already some businesses there. I mean, just some ideas that, and again, I think some of that is just discussion of ideas and brainstorming, and didn't necessarily come to fruition because there wasn't appetite for it at the time. But again, things that have come before us that we've considered.
Was that when they wanted to make it like a DDA right there? Like right along building where the antique mall is?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. There was that. I mean, that was the idea. It never took off just because getting the property owners to want to.
Taxes.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into it. But I just didn't think that we were personally ready for that yet in this township because we weren't quite developed commercially.
Right, and we're more of a drive-through versus a destination.
Right. Unless you're going to a restaurant.
Right.
So.
And that's what kicked off part of that paper road discussion, I think, that the
It did.
township's dealing with as well, if I
Yes,
recall.
abandoning all the paper roads.
Yep.
So
So there was some good that came out of that.
there was, yes. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to looking at this more in depth, or especially addressing some of the needs that are being asked of. I don't know if an overlay district necessarily is required, but we could definitely have some designated areas. I don't know if it would need to be this big or. I do like kind of like we do need to define some of the definitions, though. Like Peter said, from the state point of view, like addressing it, what does that mean? Are we doing a good job? But also, like what Rita said, what's considered affordable for Cannon Township? Right. Having a benchmark to say, okay, if we know a benchmark, where the majority of the houses fall, if they fall way above it, then yeah, we need to look at something to try to make it more affordable. But if we have a benchmark and we have most of our houses that are for sale underneath that mark, then I would think that we're doing okay. But I don't know if there's any way that we can pull any of that data. I don't know. I mean, I guess we could look at Zillow, but if he could pull that info. Yeah.
But how do we incentivize a developer to make cheaper homes, though? That's the
Well, Ben, that was going to be one of my points is whatever we do to address this, we can't actually make
We can't make
housing more
anybody
affordable.
right.
Right. So we can, I think we're balancing this goal, which is trying to retain rural character, which I think we're trying to help set in place. I think residents want in place as well. And there's other topics that mention like a drive-through community. Well, it's like, well, it is a rural community. Maybe it will always be considered drive-through if it retains that rural character. But I think the point about splitting up that land, I think that actually takes away from the rural character. And again, I don't think people could be building $700,000 homes on those 1 acre plots as well. I know land recently just sold for me that was very expensive per acre. If it's ever developed, it's not going to be for inexpensive homes.
Right. Just because if they're willing to pay that for the land, it's not going to be.
And to go back to Eileen's question earlier, kind of about the master plan, I recall that, what we had on that, a lot of the feedback from the community was fast growth, right? Growing too fast and developing too fast. And right now in the township, we have a lot of, or quite a few, larger development projects that haven't come to fruition yet. Thinking, like you had mentioned in the Orchard View, the property just down the road here, the one over on Young, just to name a few that haven't even broke ground in some cases, or are in the process of still developing. So, I mean, I think we have quite a bit in flight that we're still waiting to see what type of an impact that'll have.
Yeah, the one on Cannonsburg Road that just came through a few meetings ago.
Yeah. Yep.
I bought their homes, say, 10 to 20 years ago, and they paid extra for them, so they would be on a 2 acre parcel or 3 acre parcel. And retroactively down to everything to 1 acre, and basically takes away that. Now we're in the middle of a construction project instead of existing homes that aren't going to be built on anymore.
Just as good. If the township ever had looked at doing something like this, you're not forcing individuals to split their property. You still have your own right to maintain it 2 acres. It's if a property owner decides if they want to, if they own 4 acres. I don't know what it would look like if just some you choose to do. If they own 2 acres and they want to split it, they can. There's nothing saying you have to. It's still your property, and at the end of the day, it's your property.
Ed, how would that work in the situations with like HOAs sitting in there? I know some of those would default down.
You could exclude them.
Well, but I guess that's what I'm curious about, though. I mean, some of those will go back to the default to like underlying district, but if the HOA has in their bylaws of saying 2 acre minimums in this HOA,
they're excluded.
Then that still becomes the case. So
it would also exclude private roads that have the maximum already on them, right? And so we would still have to meet the ordinances that are already set in place. It would basically just allow a few parcels to be able to be split should they desire that.
And you can even put a cap, like I mentioned earlier, where it's only if it's if you have a property that's 5 acres, then you can
split. So 5 acres or larger, you could do it.
5 acres or less.
Oh, 5 acres less.
Instead, so that way it preserves a lot of the larger parcels. So you can change and amend this any way you want if it's something that the planning commission wants to do. If you don't want to, that's understandable. You can amend the boundary. You just had to have something to start with to discuss.
We could do a smaller area.
I was tardy, so you guys might have already discussed this, but the legislative packages that are already at the state right now where they're talking about rezoning things, do we know where the status of that is? Because that will impact us at a township level. You don't know where we're at. Okay. Sorry. I'm referring to, I don't know exactly what you guys know what I'm talking about though, right? Okay.
That might be, when I read that, it sounded like there was something there that said only if you have a public water system and a public sewer system.
Oh.
So okay. It might not even, don't quote me on it.
No, good
But it might not apply. I'd have to read through it, but there's something in there that as soon as I read it made me realize it might not apply.
Okay.
And just sounds like you might know a little bit more than me. Looking to pass something about minimum lot sizes, requiring townships and municipalities to have lower minimum lot sizes.
And it's got bipartisan support right now.
The state's on a big push for affordable housing and addressing that.
It's just giving sellers options is really what it comes down to.
I guess I go back to, for me, it's helpful to have some of this background information that we discussed before talking about specific tweaks to make, whether that's making an overlay district or adjusting an ordinance or even saying like, we're fine that background information would give us the detail that we needed to say, no, I think we are fine based on X, Y, and Z. So I know we're a little bit early for the master plan, but
Where does the 33,000 new houses that we need come from? Because we have our like at a population decline. So I'm always so confused when we need more housing when people are leaving here in flocks.
There's a website that does analysis of census.
Okay.
Jess, I'm with you. Like, I think at some point there's going to be an inflection, and then we'll have other challenges. So,
And that was countywide, 30,000, correct?
And we can also,
No, but just because that Canton Township doesn't have to single-handedly house 30.
we have to fix the problem.
Right.
So no, and that's something that we can also consider as we're asking for definitions and numbers from the assessor. We can also play this very slowly to see what neighboring townships are doing, and we can also inquire with them to ask them what their plan is moving forward over the next year of how they're going to address things, or 5 years or whatever it may be. It's not like this is something that we have to have done by a certain time. I think the ask of us is basically just, hey, we need to start considering the inquiries that the office is fielding, as far as like, hey, is this a possibility? Do we want to look at it as this, or is this something we want to address as an ordinance, maybe?
And to that end, maybe if you had a document that's more laid out, here are the top 5 requests that I have coming in, the number 1 being the ability to have an ADU on less than 2 acres, and the second being X, and the third being Y. And all right, maybe we should, I don't know, just as a tracking mechanism. So you could say, like, because then that would provide kind of the background for, the rationale for whichever direction we end up going.
And as you mentioned, standard documentation or what the other townships are doing, that's still common practice or requirement, right? When the master plan is updated, that the contiguous townships are noticed.
So I think we got some good questions here that we would like to maybe get answered first before we consider anything. So if you could get with the assessor and ask him, especially to define what Canton Township has for a benchmark for affordable, number 1, just so it gives us some ideas. Obviously we can't dictate any of the pricing, but or maybe also if we're looking at the different precincts, how many parcels would it affect if we picked a specific precinct? And maybe start, like Rita said, if you can start tracking what you're getting inquiries about, it would be nice to know. So it kind of will help us decide if we're going in the right direction or not. Is that a fair assessment? Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I just had a question about the definite precinct. Does that align with like election precincts when you say precinct 3, or is that separate from that? It's based on the old election ones with the 6. Well, I just want to make sure that like the precinct 3 definition is the same as like what the election precinct 3. That's how okay. I didn't know if it was like a separate like zoning thing, because it's okay. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Does anybody have anything else regarding this that they want to discuss? Does that give you something to start with, Ed? Go ahead.
Just kind of a question. I mean, from this spurred the conversation with some questions for it. Am I correct in here? From what I'm hearing up here is the goal is not to we're not doing this actively pursuing what was proposed or what started the conversation, from the planning commission. Is that a fair
I would agree.
fair assessment?
I think we just want to get some answers on, hey, what are some of the definitions, and obviously like, where do we stand currently? I
Yeah.
think getting answers to that, and then we can maybe look at something. But having, like we just said, having that information, I think will help us determine if we need to do anything or not.
Yeah. And I just want to, I guess, provide some clarity of the intent for, those in the public and those that might be online or checking the notes that this was our intent and this was our process and next procedure, and it isn't in an act to pursue or make, this proposal fit
Right.
at this point.
Yeah, has nothing to do with precinct 3. This is just a general, hey, where do we stand currently? So, yeah.
To that end, I don't know, Jeff, if this is a question for you or for Edmund, like maybe for the people who are listening or will listen, at what point would there be like official public comment about things, or what are the ways that people can share their thoughts on it if they have some early thoughts about any of this?
Come to the meetings and speak during the public comment like you gentlemen did. You can also send in emails. You can call. I mean, anything, giving feedback, but coming here is the best option, obviously. But I think that, I mean, if we were going to explore this more, we would do like we were doing. We would ask questions that they would get us data. And then once we have that data, we would determine as a commission here, like, hey, do we think this is something we need to address? And if so, then we would ask the attorney, like, hey, can we do what, can we change this? And if so, could you give us some recommendations of how we can legally change it? And then he would write that up. And if we like what he gave us back, then we would set a public hearing and ask the public to come in and listen to what we would be asking of and what we would want to present, because essentially we would be presenting it to the board and asking them to approve any changes, correct? Right. But it would take a few meetings for us to even get to a public comment, because we would want to make sure that we all agree on what we would be doing, and then have the attorney review it or give us some suggestions of how we could write it up to make sure it's legal. And then, it would take, I think it would be 2027 before we would even have anything concrete that we would present, or longer. Yeah. Yep.
So people can ask questions completely along the entire way. And then when it got to an actual point where we were considering, if we were going to consider a change, a public hearing would be, a notice would be put in the Rockford Squire on the website. Would anybody receive letter notifications of that? Mm-hmm.
Send it out with that type thing.
Okay.
So we could technically drag our feet to get it to that point where we could send it out with a sewer notification or something like that if we wanted to.
Or the communicator as well would be another
we could table
place.
this for as long as we wanted. This was more of just like, I'm glad that the questions came out of this, because I think we do need to figure out where we stand.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the idea of maybe trying to plan a little bit in advance and use opportunities like the tax notices or the communicator to just let more people know that it's coming down the pike, and that we welcome the opportunity to hear from them.
Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the three of you coming, but we'd like to get a few more people too. So we do like feedback, and so thank you for coming. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that? So I guess technically we don't even need to table it. It's back with you Ed, and the assessor. If you could get us more information when you have that ready, we'll be happy to review it. So I guess moving on to the next item would be the reviewing of Chapter 8, 9, Chapter 8, 11, and 12, not 9 and 10. Okay. Feel free to stay, or if you guys want to step out, you can. This is more just housekeeping stuff now. So I was not here last meeting, so I guess are you guys sticking with the same format? We're just gonna go through each section. I'll list it off, and if anybody has any questions about it or comments about it, we would state it then. Is that correct? Okay. Chapter 8, which is the R3 high density residential district. Anybody have anything for the 8.1 section? 8.2.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Can I run out to my car? I left it in there.
Yes, hurry up.
You can
Pause
keep
for a
going now.
second.
Go ahead. Just keep going.
Okay.
We're timing you.
Yeah. Okay. 8. We don't do a lot of R3. Does anybody have anything for R3 or chapter 8?
I had one thing.
Okay.
I just noticed, because I did actually read through chapter 10 as well. I noticed that for chapter 10, the Lakes Residential for special land use, there was a section on parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, and there wasn't any listed for R3. And I was wondering if that was like intentional or.
Do we have R3? We don't have any R3 in the township. Do we have any in the future land use? Right. We're already on chapter 9. You were that slow. Oh. Yeah.
I'm not sure why they left out.
Well, and I was just thinking, like, I mean, having the conversation about the affordable housing made me start thinking about like the mixed use that you mentioned and like building like little pockets of communities where there might be like housing walkable with a park and things like that. And so it just seemed like maybe a little bit of a proactive action to add that as a special use in R3, even if it's not
how you're defining it would still be allowed. This is specifically talking about you want to put Bulk Park in R3 district. You need a special land use. This isn't talking about where you do development with a playground and you have multifamily housing with a playground. This is talking about, oh, this is an R3 property, but we want to do a county park or township park there. So that's what it's addressing, not like over by Rick's, technically that green space is a park. That didn't need a special land use because it's green space too. Yeah.
So by it not being in, I guess what I'm trying to understand, by not having it listed in chapter 8, does that mean that it's a non-permitted use in R3?
It would not be allowed in R3 then.
Okay. I guess my question is do we not want, I know we don't have R3 right now, but that might not always be the case. If it makes sense to add that as a special land use that may be permitted if approved.
What you said it's in chapter 10 currently?
Yeah, in section 1003. I just noticed that it was in there, and it just seemed odd to me that it also wasn't. Oh, I think this stopped working. It wasn't also in chapter 8. Because Lakes Residential is also quite dense with smaller lots and people living closer together. So
the public and private non-commercial parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, athletic fields, and community center buildings. You want to add a special land use section to R3 with those in it.
Well, I wanted to open it up to see what other people thought of that and understand if it was intentionally left out or not.
I mean, it doesn't hurt us to have it in there. So, I mean, we could ask that the attorney draft something up for the R3 section. Is that what you'd like to have? I mean, we can put it in, ask him to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it makes sense to have it in there as a possible permitted
Would you
use.
want it to mimic the table from 10.03?
Yeah. Unless anyone sees any problems with the way that 1003 is written. And again, it's a special use, so it would require approval.
Do we have on the master plan anything for an R3 even? So why do we have this in the zoning ordinance?
Could we remove R3?
It might be a requirement.
Is it a requirement? Okay.
Well, this may dovetail our discussion in 2 years. So I agree with it. It seems to me if one of our goals is to maintain rural community and we're looking at high density, but you can't have a playground. I don't know. It just doesn't seem very family friendly.
So it would let you have a playground.
Pardon me.
It would let you, this is, like I said, it's talking about you can't in
Not
R3
commercial
district
use.
construct a huge park like a
Can't be a commercial use.
you can have a small little residential, like, yeah, this isn't, that's not excluding that, it's saying in R3 you can't come in and build a big,
And that's why you said it's not necessary because it's redundant. Or someone who knows them.
I mean, no, if you want to add it just to have it added, but we don't have R3 and the odds of it probably ever happening in the township, I would say, are low. Because the future land use map doesn't even.
Was there anywhere that was ever discussed to be R3? Out of curiosity, like that, the one that was like across the road here that was discussed for a little bit. Was that R3 or was that R2?
I think it was R2.
R2.
Since I've been here, nothing has come in to discuss R3.
I'm not opposed to putting it in there just to put it in there. We can. Would you mind? Could we have that as an option? Have the attorney mimic table 10.03 for the chapter 8 R3 section, or at least ask him.
Yeah, for the number one. Number one in table 10.03.
I'm sorry, what table?
I was just saying it's item number 1 in table 10.03.
Item number 1. Okay. Was there anything else from the chapter 8? Did anybody have any notes? So we can go to number 10. Skip 10, go to 11. That's right. So the B1 neighborhood business district, 11.1, 1102.
I had a question on that. I noticed that for 1102, number 7 said that drive-through facilities are not permitted. Does that need to be updated now based on having Big B in Rick's? Are they still, does that impact that?
That was part of because it was a PUD, a special use with the PUD that we were able to do.
We amended the PUD, I believe. Yeah. Correct, Ed?
Correct. And that was not a lot of driving facilities and accessory use. Really things. We're not actually driving restaurants that we drive. So this is you're still trying to separate uses. So less intensive commercial, you still you don't want to have both commercial and the same. You want to do
Okay, I just want clarification. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't. So you're saying it doesn't need to be changed because it doesn't impact that. Okay.
unless it's something commission decided they want to.
We'll move on. 1103. 1104. 1105. Do you get any calls on 1105 at all? It's the setbacks. Okay. 1106. 1107.
The only question that I have on this, with any of these, with the other regulations, where it references other sections and chapters, are we congruent with the changes that we're making, like when we're proposing something that on this? That would just be the only question that I would read.
When all the changes are done and it goes to the process, I would agree that it would be compiled on the and then we'll go through each of them.
And we talked at one point about seeing if we could hyperlink those on the website, you know, that address, so when we jump into those sections that more user friendly.
Ed, is this connected to all the other stuff we're doing for the website? So this is still going to be separately on.
So,
It'll be
Oh.
published on the website eventually.
so eco is on the website.
Right, but that's on the old one, and Ray and Jim right now are working on.
No, eco is linked on the website, so you can get eco ordinances.
Okay, thank you.
I guess to follow up on that, for the things like wetlands protection ordinance and land division ordinance, are those on the website too? Somewhere?
They're probably
So that would solve some of that appeals. It has to
it would come off when we update it then.
land division ordinance would have
I just wonder if it would be beneficial to have all of these listed in the zoning section as well, because if this is the document and people are referencing it, it would be great to hyperlink it somewhere. Maybe can we note that, like for whichever noxious weed ordinance,
Is there
whatever, comma,
there a way to
located in the
hyperlink it?
general ordinance document or something?
Hyperlink it?
What was the question?
I was asking if we could hyperlink it.
Oh.
You were thinking.
Hyperlink it, or at least note in there, like
General
in parentheses, like see general ordinances document or something like that, just so it indicates to people where they can find it, if that's possible.
I would agree. I think that would be a good idea. At least telling them, hey, see general ordinance if it's in the general ordinance. All right, that is the conclusion of chapter 11, I believe. So now, chapter 12, the B2 General Business District, 12.1.
What do we have that's in B2?
Probably down by Bostic Lake, if anything.
Okay. Is Rick's?
That's the village PUD or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
There might be stuff out front of like Timbers and stuff, the strip mall. Or is that B1?
So yeah,
Is the dentist part of the PUD right here? Or are they separate? That's what I thought too. So the dentist's office would be B2.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
That's your ball.
And out front of like Timbers. Okay. Does that help, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. 12.2. 12.
I had a question with permitted land use number 9, electronic data processing centers. Is that the thing that everybody's up in arms about? I don't know if those words are the same thing.
Can we take number 9 out, please? No.
It seems to me one could interpret it as a permitted use, and I'm not sure if that was intentional or it should really be a special use. Yeah, I was thinking.
Could we maybe?
It meant something else back then, a Xerox store.
Could we maybe remove that and put number 9 in? Ask to put it into a special land use. Okay. So then,
Did you say that was? I mean, last meeting you said there's something
Good catch.
in talk or being worked on for that. Okay.
okay. So it'll be addressed soon. Okay. 12 point. Go ahead.
So what's the resolution then? Do we take this out? here.
I think we should take it out if it's being worked on. Let an actual ordinance be defined. Oh, we gotta find definitions now. What's that? Chapter 2? It's not in the definitions. Can we get a definition for number 9? Can we ask the attorney to give us a definition? Okay, thank you. So 12.3.
I had a quick question. I just noticed that in chapter 13, there's a section for permitted land use for growers and processors of medical marijuana in industrial, but I was curious to know, and it seems like maybe there was discussion about this in the past, like what's the status on like just sale of cannabis locations? Is that just not, it's not in here, not permitted?
Back in like 2015, they said no, we'll only ever do industrial.
Okay. And then is like having the medical marijuana like something that's required then? Like having that included in the industrial?
But you had to do it back then with the state, right?
So in chapter 13 under 1302.8, that you're saying that was something that was required by the state to put in as a permitted use to grow medical marijuana? It had to be addressed. Okay, and that's how it was addressed by adding it into the industrial district only.
Yes.
And as of right now, we don't want to include anything unless we're required to at some point. Okay, I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Anybody have anything for 12.3? 12.4? 12.5? 12.6? Ed, do you get outdoor lighting in 12.6 at all? I mean, is it?
I haven't had any, usually outdoor lighting complaints are about people in neighborhoods doing developments. I haven't had any outdoor lighting complaints for lighting plans in general for commercial.
What would be like the Ada Bible Church? What would they be considered?
That's a rural residential property, so they are rural.
Okay. Their lights are bright. That's the only, I made me think of that, so, okay. 12, well, that's it for 12. Are we doing 13 tonight? Not tonight?
I don't believe industrial.
Okay. So,
I do think industrial, these definitions of business need to be redefined and new businesses will need to be added,
so we should review,
I'll make a list.
so we should review 13.
At the next meeting, I'll make a list. I think 13 needs to be addressed. Well, obviously leave the marijuana stuff alone, but
You want us to review 13, 14, 15 for the next meeting type thing, or?
yeah, just go over.
All right.
I just think the defining of certain industries and industrial can be better to make it clear what's allowed.
All right, that was it for the review, right? Next item, planning commission comments. Anybody got anything? Ed, you got anything? We got anything for next month so far?
Nothing.
We need to get another commissioner. So I guess let us know if there's something on the agenda for next month. They would have to have it in by what, tomorrow? Okay, so do we want to put this on the agenda for next month, or do you want to wait until we have something?
We can wait, gives you more time. Even if I come up with a list, I can send it out and
Okay.
let you review it.
So nothing for June as of right now. Well, nothing is on the agenda. So nothing for June.
You say we need another member.
We do. Terry is no longer doing the planning commission. So if you guys know of anybody who wants to do it, tell them to get in contact with Ed. Or if anybody out there in internet land is watching, get in contact with Ed.
Is that going to be posted on the website or?
I'll post on website, Facebook. Next week.
I think the only require.
I love that. Let's do that, and we can talk about how zoning ordinances get changed.
No, he just wants to say that they're looking for a commission member. And what's the only requirement? You just got to live in the township, right?
And do we need another alternate for ZBA as well? So there we go. It's a help wanted ad for the communicator next one.
Cool.
Perfect. I love it.
Anything else?